This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
The biggest icon in podcasting.
Welcome in, everybody, to a special edition of the Doc and Jock program on the Detroit Sports Podcast Network. I am the Doc, John Macaroon. Joining me, my guy Adam, the Jock Strozinski. It's a dreary Tuesday, but the Tigers are playing at what is now known as Comerica Park. It's going to change. It's going to be Doc and Jock Park pretty soon if we can figure out some financing. But $10 billion, Fifth Third Bank is purchasing Comerica, and obviously, we now know the name is going to change, but not next year, but that's here nor there. The Tigers are in the playoffs. They're coming back to their home ballpark 1-1. We're going to talk about that here very shortly. The Red Wings are going to kick off their season. How many points does this team get? Are they going to the youth movement? Has Steve Yzerman figured out a way to buy another year? Seems diabolical. Is it? Is there a conspiracy theory here as to why some of the moves have been made? Very interesting. We're going to talk about it, and then we'll finish the podcast talking about the Lions. News is breaking by the minute regarding Terrion Arnold. Is he in? Is he out? Is he in? Is he out? What's going to happen? We'll break it all down. Because what's going on? The Tigers are sitting right now at 1-1. And I think everything that we have to discuss to start revolves around Scott Harris and the way in which now we perceive him. Does winning the series against the Guardians absolve him from really having a bad trade deadline? They are at the same spot they were last year. They're competing, and a lot of these other series seem to be at 2-0. The Tigers are in the mix, and for me, I look at it like there's no erasing the fact that Scott Harris had a bad deadline. There's something to be learned, but at the same token, he got the baseball team, which is very difficult to do. You got to give him credit. 2 years into the postseason, 2 years winning a series, and I do think the crux of the anger is nobody in Metro Detroit believes the Tigers can beat the Dodgers in a playoff series, and I think that's where the real anger is that the mission of a deadline, there's only one mission, really one and a half, is one, improve your team, and two, and many people will say maybe half or worth a full point. The other is to sell the hope that eventually that the moves that you made would have created some buzz that you can win a championship. Many people felt like the team got worse, and many people felt like there's no chance in hell the Tigers are going to make a World Series run based on these moves. Does he get any sort of grace for beating the Guardians? I just look at it like, no, my anger. And you credit him for clearly building a playoff team, but most of the anger in my mind comes from the fact that nobody believes that this baseball team can win a World Series, and it's atrocious to watch, man. This thing is like the best. If you have any sleep problems, watch the Tigers. They'll whiff, they'll drag it out. The excitement level happens later in games, but my God, it's not entertaining at all to watch.
Yeah, he gets zero grace from me here because he didn't do anything at the trade deadline that made this team better, right? And I think watching the playoffs just kind of exacerbates all of the problems with this team. It just highlights all of the flaws with this team. When you can't get runners in and you're leaving an astronomical amount of guys on base, to me, you knew this going in. We talked about this. We knew this going into the season that at some point, they've got to get a bat. At some point, they've got to get somebody who can hit the ball and help get runs home. And then you're seeing this manifest and play its way out through the Guardian series, now through the Mariners series, where they're just leaving guys in scoring position and they can't get them home. The other night, I was watching the Skubal start. What was that, Sunday night? And fourth inning, he gives up that home run, and my initial thought was game's over. Game's over. Like, they're not going to be able to generate any runs to give him any support. He has to go out and he has to give you 8 perfect innings in order to get the win. And then I'm like, this is just another lost opportunity. Now, yeah, they did tie the game up, but they tied it up for moments. Next thing you know, The Mariners are able to get another run home, and now the series is tied up at 1 apiece, headed into Tuesday's game. And I was just like, this has been the problem all season. This has been the problem since they've come out of the All-Star break. You don't have a bat that can help steady everything and generate a run when you've got guys on second and third. I think at this point, hold on, let me grab a couple of numbers here for you, okay? Because it's absolutely abysmal what they've been doing with guys left on base. It's incredibly frustrating. You've got 44 guys left on base. You're 10 and 52 with runners in scoring position. That's obscene. That is malfeasance as far as a general manager goes at putting together a roster. You could have made a move or two at the trade deadline to really help salvage this. Eugenio Suarez, he's in this series that you're playing. This was a guy that we all thought you could go get, and you passed. To me, Scott Harris gets zero grace because the initial thought was, you know what, they missed the playoffs, and it's a spoonful of their own medicine, right? They missed the playoffs, they don't get in, and why? It's because Scott Harris did such a poor job at the trade deadline, and now he's going to be forced to address these situations. I don't know if that's the case anymore, because you can say, well, you can see it worked. We got here. Now we're here. Just our luck ran out. We played a much better team. And that's not really the case here. I feel like this team's pitching staff does such a decent job, and you've got such a good manager. He puts you in positions to win games, but the bats aren't there. The ability to drive runs home is not there, and they can't manufacture anything because they don't have the players. And I think that is the biggest demerit against Scott Harris right now, and he gets zero grace and zero credit from me. To me, it is just that much more frustrating to watch these games play out, because if they are lucky enough to get past the Mariners in this series, if they are lucky enough to do that, when they go heads up with what I'm assuming is going to be the Toronto Blue Jays, good luck, because Vlad Guerrero, this was a guy that was bantied about possibly being an option for the Tigers. He's on fire. That lineup is on fire. And if you're able to possibly, somehow, miraculously get past the Blue Jays, good job taking on a team like Milwaukee, or good job trying to take on a team against the Dodgers. You have zero luck against any of these three teams that you might face. When you look at the rest of the landscape in the Major League Baseball playoffs, how you are in the playoffs makes zero sense, because you're looking at these teams putting up crooked numbers. Even in losses, teams are generating 4 and 5 runs, which is more than you are generating hits. And that's a problem.
Yeah, it's a tough thing. All we asked for was one bat, one bat. You couldn't find. Now, it didn't have to be Suarez. Like, your job is to find the guy that's actually going to produce. I'm actually happy they didn't land him, because every time you see him up there, he's not doing the job. He's not really making a big difference. Now, let's hope over the next 2 games here that Suarez is not going to take over Comerica Park, because that would definitely frustrate everybody. You look at it and you're like, isn't it weird that they lost to Scooble Star, but they won game 1? How do you see the rest of the series playing out? We're previewing it, and we had the benefit of talking last week similarly, where the games happened after we previewed it. I kind of feel like the Tigers have just this knack for late game heroics. They're gritty. They understand what they need to do. 2 games at Comerica Park, and I just feel like they're going to probably split again at Comerica, and you got Scooble in game 5, and it's going to be tough. The issue, though, which is scary, is we all predicted that, hey, Scooble 2 starts means wins. Unfortunately, Seattle has the magic elixir, cause they've beaten them quite a bit of times, and even including the last 2. So are the Seattle Mariners in the head of Tariq Skubal?
I don't think the Seattle Mariners are in his head. I think, honestly, if I'm Tariq Skubal, I feel like I've got to be perfect. I don't feel like I've got any margin for error. And I think as a professional athlete, that becomes a little bit tough to handle, right? It becomes a little bit tough to do that. Having to be perfect all the time is a challenge. And I think not getting the adequate run support that you need is just a big issue that he kind of runs into. It's one of those things. If you go back and you just kind of look at different games that he's pitched, the run support for him specifically, just it's not really there. And so that just puts more of a workload on him. Like, he's pitched deeper and he's pitched longer and he's thrown more pitches this season than he ever has in his career, right? And you look at what he's getting as far as any sort of backup to kind of help ease that or steady that or allow him to possibly get out an inning or two earlier. It's just not there. I think the Tigers do a really good job of mucking things up, right? Like you said, they play this weird, gritty baseball where they just kind of hang around. You know, they're not necessarily getting blown out. They find a way to kind of have a timely run, or the ball will kind of bounce slightly their way, like it did against Naylor the other night, where the ball was lined right to him. He bobbles the play at first and kind of boots the ball a little bit, and you're able to get runners in scoring position. Again, you got runners at first and second and nobody out there. To me, they play this brand of baseball where it's just good enough to get by. And if you can get the timely hit, you're dangerous. The problem is getting the timely hits. I think you're right. I think they split the series here in Detroit. You then have Skubal going, and I think if you go back and you watch the game that Skubal pitched, really and truly, it was two pitches that got away from him. They were both high in the zone, coming back, I think, after sliders that were low in the zone. Would he want to have those back? Yes. Was it essentially the same exact setup and the same exact pitch? Yes. So can he learn from that? I think so. And if it comes down to Skubal, he's the best option you've got. I think you can eke out a timely hit, and I think you can win the series. But they're going to have to take care of some business here at home at Comerica Park. I think they get the job done in Game 5. And if I told you that they were going to go to 5 games against the Mariners, I think we would all take it, right? You'd be able to say, hey, we essentially duplicated what we did last year. I think early in the season, at about the halfway point, you would never have accepted that, because this was a team that we're talking about as being a World Series contender. And now we're hoping to get past the ALDS. So it's what it is. I think they can win this in 5 games. I think they split at home, and then they go back to Seattle, and you've got Skubal pitching for all the marbles, and I think that bodes well for the Tigers.
Woohoo! I'm excited, man. It's fun. Playoff baseball, as crazy as it is, it's been fun to follow. It's a tough watch because we all get frustrated with the fact that they don't hit well. They leave.
You live on every pitch, man. It's crazy.
It is. It is. You realize though that because Toronto's legit, bro. They're gonna blow out the Yankees, and you would have no chance if you advanced. They probably could beat you on average 4-0 every single game. So listen, take it if you can. If you can advance, that's fine. But in the end, let's see where this ends up taking the Detroit Tigers. Well, you know what's also frustrating if you're a Spartan fan is that you obviously are not in the caliber of even being mediocre. You go out to Nebraska, a team that always falls flat on their face, and you couldn't muster enough defense to play well. You couldn't play well along the offensive line. Aiden Childs got dinged up, comes back in the game, but has some untimely turnovers. And then Jonathan Smith still doesn't have the ability to acknowledge that, yeah, your offensive line is not really that good. And it bogs everything down. But because it's really bad that at this point in the season, everybody's talking about, listen, we don't care about $31 million. Let's just find it so we can buy out Jonathan Smith. The issue that I think Spartan fans have, and one in which it doesn't really apply to Michigan because they just keep rolling on. They got a big test this week, but we'll see how they handle their trip out west, is that it doesn't feel like the Spartans can compete in the Big Ten. It feels like, okay, you're going to have a good non-conference record, and then you're just going to get bombed out by Michigan. Your competition, you lost to Nebraska. That's a win. We're just looking for any meaningful win. Boston College, the win now is diminished because they're a one-win team, and they just got blown out. It's disappointing. It's disappointing at the highest level because it does have a feel that you asked a great question, in our talk. Does Jonathan Smith have a roster issue, or is it him? Because why would you even put that? It's both. He's not a good coach, not good enough at this level to step it up and motivate the team to get after it. This is like, it feels like a guy coming from the MAC and enjoying the ride at the big time. Well, unfortunately, this is the big time, and the big time you need wins. And you've made Michigan State, in a spot where they're almost irrelevant, where you feel like, okay, they're going to get blown up by Michigan. They got no chance. You haven't done enough recruiting. And then what's the news after a tough loss? And I know there's semantical issues, and it's like, hey, nobody's committed yet. But the news is, and it's splashed all over the headlines, is you had a 4-star wide receiver who was the leading member of your class that was going to sign, basically said, I probably could take less money to go have more fun somewhere else. That was like another kick in the nuts to see a decommit. Well, technically, semantically, it's not a decommit because nobody signs for a couple months. But he said he was coming, and now he's not. He's looking for more money, most likely. And most likely he saw the performance and was like, I don't think I want Aiden throwing me the ball. It's disheartening. And when you compare it to Michigan, where they roll through, they have a great running back in Blake Corum, and they go out now and get Justice Haynes. And they have a great quarterback in J.J. McCarthy, and now they get the best of the best in Bryce Underwood. And that's how you keep momentum building, and that's how you keep your fan base happy. Even though, I will say the highlight of the week to me was Fox just dropping the lazy Walmart video, which I thought was classic, and I thought it was amazingly well done. Are you a fan of Michigan? Did you go there? No. And they're like 9 no's and 2 yeses. I thought it was a beautifully well done, crafted, produced video that got a lot of attention, and everyone's like, what the hell is this? But that's here nor there, because from the outside looking in, it just seems like Jonathan Smith has really not done enough to boost the Spartans to where they need to be. They need to be, at this point in year 2, at least a 6-7 win team, and I don't know if they get there.
Yeah, it just seems like he's a little bit in over his head, right?
Yes.
He came from Oregon State, and I think he thought it was going to maybe be a little bit of a smoother transition. You have to realize also what he kind of stepped into, right? Like, Mel Tucker didn't leave him in a great situation, but that being said, you've got things to play to your advantage. You've got a transfer portal, you've got NIL money, and I know Michigan State needs to kind of restructure how their NIL program is set up, but you have tools at your disposal. You brought a quarterback with you, which was supposed to help. You've not done a good job of protecting that quarterback. Your offensive line is trash, and your defensive line is also trash. So protecting your quarterback and getting to other quarterbacks, that's the real issue here. And I think that he thought maybe this was going to be a little bit more run and gun, right? Maybe we can kind of throw the ball around. We'll spread everything out wide, and you don't necessarily need to invest in the trenches. It's the one thing about Big Ten football. As much as Big Ten football has evolved, the game is won up front on both sides of the ball. It is getting pressure on the quarterback and keeping your quarterback upright so they can do things. And I just think that he maybe has a different understanding, or maybe he had a different perspective. And I think it's been a lot of learning on the go. And I think the real issue for Michigan State is it's Jonathan Smith. And he hasn't acclimated well to the temperature of the Big Ten. He hasn't acclimated well to the play style that is the Big Ten. And he hasn't been able to duplicate the winning seasons that he had at Oregon State. And I think it's because he's trying to build his program similar to what he did out there. And it just doesn't work. And
here's what's frustrating to most people. If you and I took a week off in a bye week and we're like, all right, we're going to take a week off, we're going to fine tune everything, we would come back and have the podcast sounding as crisp as possible. It would be on time, boom, all the links set up, boom, boom, boom. We would be like, refreshed. Everything would be sounding amazing. No issues, no stalls, no false starts, no editing needed. Jonathan Smith has a bye week, and they came out looking like they had never prepared for a football contest. You're like, a bye week is supposed to represent cleaning up, making the issues go away that you have. Instead, it's just like, it's lip service. Nobody likes lip service in the world of sports, where you're like, we got to clean it up. Well, you're still taking penalties. You're still having untimely turnovers. You're still not able to compete offensively with the same opponents that you kind of are in the same realm with. So it just defeats the whole purpose of a bye week. You're supposed to come out looking like your best self, because guess what you're supposed to do? Self-scout, learn about what you've done differently that you could improve upon. It just felt like, well, we had the bye week and we came back and looked like the same freaking football team that doesn't pressure the quarterback, that doesn't make the key play when needed, and by and large has a quarterback that you just got destroyed because your offensive line can't block. And, I mean, I hate to say it, but what kind of doctor would let Aiden Childs back out there? He looked different. When he came back in after getting rocked, he looked like, and everybody's bringing up the Shane Morris comparison, it looked like that. Like, you just looked at, a kid's going to tell you, I'm good. But he didn't look right. He didn't look right when you turn on the film. And I just felt like, man, would you have gotten momentum from keeping in the other quarterback? I doubt it, to end up winning the game, but he did kind of, show something. So it's just disheartening. It's just more of the same. And that's what sucks, is that you have to watch it, but it's just like another swift kick in the nuts. And then you realize Michigan's going out west. They got a lot of buzz. What are your thoughts about Michigan and USC? You think they got a chance? I think it's a nice test, a litmus test to see where Michigan's at. USC is going to be a formidable foe. If it was in Ann Arbor, I think we all know what would happen. But this one has a chance where I believe that if you can continue to get Haynes doing his thing, I think Michigan has a chance to come back from the out west trip with a victory.
Yeah, I think this is an important game for Michigan, right? I think they win this game. And you remember I was telling you how I felt like this was the game and the Michigan State game were the games that could really trip up Michigan headed into the Ohio State game. I no longer feel that way about Michigan State. Just kind of seeing what I've seen the last couple of weeks with the offensive and defensive lines, I'm not necessarily concerned about Michigan State. But this game, going out west, going to USC, I think they've got a very good offense. So I think it's going to be a good challenge for Michigan's defense. I love to see the growth that Michigan's offense is having. Possibly found a wide receiver this past week. So we'll see if they can continue to grow and take steps going forward. I think this is a huge game, though, and I do think it's a little bit of a litmus test for Michigan. I think Michigan wins this week, though. I think it'll be a close game, and I think it's going to be a little bit of a track meet because I do think that USC offense is pretty good. But all of that being said, I think Michigan comes away with the win, and to me, as long as they don't get ahead of themselves, I see this showdown with Ohio State being huge and looming massively as they get to November. But I think Michigan goes into USC, and I think they come away with a win.
Because if you want to laugh real fast, as we're recording, the Bengals have decided that Browning...
trading for Joe Flacco. Holy cow.
That's funny. That's kind of...
Wow. Dylan Gabriel is your starting quarterback with Shedeur Sanders as your backup?
Listen.
Wow.
That's the equivalent of our Michigan State talk. You go out and you get Joe Flacco. I mean, that's kind of a move in which the division's like, we'll give it to him. What the hell? It's Joe Flacco. But, it can't be no worse than what Browning did, bro. That was bad. It was just atrocious. Yeah. And we'll talk about the Lions, but kind of funny to react. Everybody in Detroit is laughing at the move because we're all like, look at that. Browning got benched because of how bad he played against Calvin Shepard's defense. But it was atrocious. He lit up finally, but way too soon. It was basically garbage time stats. And that's kind of what it feels like with Michigan State. It's just like, moving forward. Because I want to get your sense. You're the guy. You're the one that loves it. You're the one that's got the 1-9 hanging up. I listen to him. Now listen, I will say this. Kudos to Keats and Ozzy. They did a podcast with Steve Eiserman where he actually seemed a little bit more engaged, which is fun. He let loose a little bit with his former teammate, so go check it out. It's a fun, not real hard-hitting. Clearly, Ozzy's not going to punch his former teammate in the gut and be like, how come you can't get to the postseason? But I will say this. There is, to me, from what everybody's saying and what I'm reading, it looks like they're going to play some younger guys that have made the team. Yeah. Hall gets cut. I think that signaled to everybody, oh, wait a minute. Is this I'm curious your sense of it as the season's about to start for the Red Wings. Is this a realistic, smart move, or is this kind of Stevie going, listen, if y'all are going to hate me, for not making the playoffs. At least we're going to have some young cats. I feel like he's setting up a beautiful excuse for another year of not winning. And I'm like, oh man, you should have did this last year. It's a beautiful move, but you can't make that move 365 days later. I'm like, oh my God, Adam's going to love this one. But I feel like my mind is telling me 88 points, scratching and clawing, figuring out another way, and then just falling short. It just feels like more of the same to me, unless this youth movement brings some things. What are your thoughts? Who are the cats? Let the people know that aren't paying attention. Who the heck of these young people that have made the team have a chance to do some things? I'm excited to see at least, the first 10 games of the new Red Wings season. But I'm looking at 88 points. I don't feel like this is a playoff team as constructed.
Yeah, I don't think they're a playoff team either. And look, to be honest with you, besides the young guys getting called up and finally given a chance, I really want to see what Axel Sandin Pellikka looks like. He's the guy that everybody's been talking about. He's the one that the future kind of resides on. So I want to see what they look like, what he looks like specifically. But no, I don't think this is a playoff team. I don't think they have a shot to make the playoffs. But I think you're right when you said that it feels as though he's built in an excuse. So he can turn around at the end of the year and say, hey, look, we brought the young guys up. We got the young guys some seasoning. We got them some games. It's going to now allow us to build on that for the next season, basically kicking the can down the road for at least another year or two. But all that being said, I've got zero interest in this team. Like, I've got no interest in this team. I'm not dialed into it. I've been so put off by Steve Yzerman and by Steve Yzerman's laissez-faire attitude and him basically nodding off in the middle of press conferences and him just basically being the way he's been, like, dude, you've kind of created this mess. You've been here long enough and you've given nobody anything to be excited about. And then when they start asking you questions, you get indignant about it. Like, that's not how this works. It's not how it works at all. And then, we're supposed to now grovel at your feet and say, oh, thank you for bringing the kids up. Get the hell out of here, man. Like, legit, he probably should have been fired 2 seasons ago. But because his name is Steve Yzerman, he gets to walk on water around here. I'm hoping that the kids show up and I'm hoping that the kids perform. And I hope that they are physically mature enough for an NHL season. That's always the concern when they're this young. Also, Pellikka is not a very big guy. He's amazing. I don't know if you've ever seen any of his highlights, watch some of his stuff when he's played for the Swedish national junior team, or you watch some of his stuff when he was over in Sweden. Like, he's incredible. I need to see how it translates to the NHL, though. Again, the ice surface, a little bit smaller. It's a little bit more condensed. Obviously, in the NHL, you're playing against grown-ass men. You're not playing against juniors. So I'm going to be interested to see what he does. And that's probably the one thing that I'll tune in for. But I've got zero interest in this team. I don't necessarily care what this team does. And at this point, apathy is set in. And you've seen it with the organization. Like, the organization, I think, understands where they're at right now. They a couple weeks ago, they were offering no fee tickets. Go ahead and buy all your tickets with no fees attached. They sent out a press release to people who have season tickets, where if you have season tickets, here's a code for your friends to come to the opening night game for $29 and plus fees. It was like $25 plus fees. The fees ended up coming out to like $4.75. So for like under $30, you can go to the opening night's game, which is Thursday, and sit in the upper bowl if you have a friend who can get you the code. So, like, they're basically trying to give you tickets to fill the arena because they understand now nobody has any interest in this team. Apathy has run so deep with this team, and I think that's part of the reason why you've seen them bring the kids up, is it's a way to maybe try to drum up a little bit of interest. And like I said, kind of works a little bit for me because that's really all I would tune in for. I've got zero interest in anything this team does. This team is going no place fast.
Okay, so it was interesting because earlier on Tuesday, and I'm a radio connoisseur. I like to listen to almost everything, a lot of podcasts, a lot of radio. Jared Goff was on the radio, and he's like, man, I listen to your genre, Doug and Scott, and he's like, you guys are all negative. He's like, I don't know if I could do this. You guys are just all and he's joking around, but he's like, you guys are all negative. I feel like I'd be too positive to do this. But let's take a different approach, because we know factually, it's an uphill climb. What would need to go right for this Red Wing team to kind of push through and clear that 95-point barrier? Would it have to be improved goaltending? Would the defense just have to turn things around in special teams? What's the dream scenario that gets this team above the hump? What's the hope? Because we all know the reality of how tough it is, especially not even looking at the Red Wings, the division that they're in. The way the conference is just tough with Boston, and it starts with Montreal. Game 1, I think Game 1 is Montreal, is going to be super tough. What's the dream scenario to get this hockey club into the postseason? Is it everybody staying healthy and just Dylan Larkin and just everybody doing what they need to do, DeBrincat and Kane still getting after it and having that connection, the defense finally stepping up? What is the dream scenario? I know it's a tough sell, but what would that be in your mind? Because the goaltending has shifted. Maybe if you have the goaltender, just as simple as the goaltender stands on his head and, steals you a handful of points, maybe you can get above. There were games last year that they were in. They just had that, if you recall last year, they were, chipping away. There's another year with McClelland, and I feel like if you can get his system down and you fight and stop blowing leads, I feel like there's an opportunity to maybe push a little bit forward.
I think for them to get to that 95-point threshold, you would have to see some of the young guys step up, right? So Nygaard would have to step up and would have to show
something.
A lot of growth as a young player. Pellica would have to be revolutionary as far as what he can do manning a power play and getting points. I think you would have to have health, obviously. You would have to see Dylan Larkin play better than Dylan Larkin has ever played in his career, right? Like he would have to set career highs in goals, assists, in games played. Patrick Kane, you would have to get Patrick Kane that you had probably 5 years ago. And same thing with James Van Riemsdyk. Like you would have to get these guys who basically have stepped like through a time warp and are now like playing like they're 31. Goaltending would have to take a step forward, and I don't know if you necessarily get that out of the goaltenders that are on this roster. Mo Seider would have to have a huge year. DeBrincat would have to have another big year. I don't know. Gibson would have to stay healthy, right? Goaltending again. Yep. Gibson would have to stay healthy, and Cam Talbot would have to play really, really good hockey. There's a lot of things, man, and I just don't know if all the pieces are here. This is what I would like to do. Let's revisit this.
Yes.
After, we'll say, the
10,
first
15.
10 games.
You got it.
So, was that probably the first 2-3 weeks of the season? We'll revisit it, and we'll take a look. But I think there's going to be a lot of growing pains. When you bring up the young kids like this, there's mistakes that happen. I think goaltending, depending on what you believe with Gibson, might be improved if he can stay healthy. I think you're old as far as your offense goes. I think defense is probably where the strength of this team is, but it's not for probably another 2 or 3 years. You know what I'm saying? I haven't seen a forward come up where I'm like, that's going to be the guy. I think Pellica could be the guy on defense, right? Him with Mo Seider, they play completely different, but I think like he could be outstanding. He could be that offensive defenseman that we've been craving. Okay. But I don't know, man. Maybe it's Nygaard. Maybe Nygaard's the guy. Maybe. I don't know.
Okay, and some names to pay attention to, some signings. Pay attention to 29-year-old Mason Appleton. Kind of strengthens the forward unit. Like you said, Nygaard, 19 years old, 6'1", 204. I think a lot of people really like his game for his maturity for that age. And then, like you said, Berggren, Jonathan, 25 years old. He's got to, I think, take a step. And I guess the other, guy that everyone's paying attention to is just JT Compher. Is he going to actually kind of be a little bit more consistent and round into form? You kind of know what you get, but maybe if you get a little bit more from your role players, then this Red Wing Hockey Club can take some strides forward. Let's see. The season kicks off And it's going to be tough, man. It's just you got to deal with the beasts, and we'll see how it shakes out. Now, the Detroit Lions are in a totally different class now. As we're talking, hands down, it's always fun. And I don't care what people say. They say power rankings don't mean squat. They don't mean shit. I don't care. It's always fun to open up the papers and to see Sports Illustrated, ESPN, Bleacher Report, Ringer, all. The only party pooper in the bunch was Sporting News. We use them regularly, so we don't ignore them. And I thought about, I could just delete it and have a universal number one on our ranking sheet. But I'm like, you know what? We've respected Vinny Iyer for 5 years. We put him on the website. Universally, outside of like a handful. And the funny part is the group of NFL writers for On SI don't even have the Lions at number one, which I tried to fight for because I said, hey, look, Sports Illustrated, the national company, has the Lions at number one. And a little teaser here, how are you guys going to have us number 2 or 3? Like, come on, writers. Like, come on, wake up. But I don't care. It's fun. The Detroit Lions, as we sit this week 6 of the NFL, you can go enjoy it. Number 1 ranked in the league. One, do you believe that? Coming off of the dominant victory over the Bengals. Look, you played some crumb bum teams, but it's the National Football League and you're curb stopping people. It's not easy to do week after week after week. And again, the blessing is that for those of you that call DocNJock haters, the reason why we were so mad after week 1 was I felt like you could have scored 30 points in week 1. I was told, cuz, that it takes time to play well. It takes time to get going. No, it don't. Not when you got Amon-Ra, J-Mo, Laporta, Gibbs. No, okay, fine. You get 1 pass. But still, that week, when we see a disaster, everyone's going to flip out because we knew what you have been able to do, dropping over 160 points in the last 4 games, averaging 40 points a game. I repeat, averaging 40 points a game is indicative of the offensive talent that you have. And you're withstanding injuries. You remember, you don't have your guy opposite of Aiden. He's out. And Terry on 75%. And you're still winning games. That's the credit where you do give the Lions in that. Because this is please, I hope you are, I know I am, taking advantage of knowing that we've watched a lot of games, even like the one against the Bengals, where they would start really well, and then the other team would come back and then lose the game. Now, the Lions actually curb stomp people. They withstand runs. Ups and downs happen. But the way the Bengals played used to be how the Lions would play. And to see this football team just rolling along, 4 straight wins, I'm thoroughly enjoying analyzing, watching, talking about, yelling about, and debating about this Detroit Lions football team. It's a good football team, and it's one in which, thankfully, the coordinators, you can even make the fair argument, and we're not going to be the only ones doing it. You can make a fair argument, and I know Jared Goff said the media is negative, and a lot of the angst was, hey, your coordinator, and I think it was from you too, Adam, that said, hey, the coordinators are going to scare me. Why didn't we say maybe the coordinators were actually better, a younger, fresher look, not maybe talent-wise, but I was thinking before I dialed you up, I was thinking about the whole coordinator thing. And I was like, you know what? It maybe not even just talent of Kelvin Shepard and not the talent of John Morton. It's just pure psychology. Like, imagine someone barking at you for 5 years and then you get a new fresh voice, a new energy. Just the very nature of change could have been a good thing. Aaron Glenn's was fine. I don't think he was a disaster, even though his start as a head coach is a disaster. I think that just new voices in the room can freshen up a team. Like, John Morton's different. I think he's sneaky funny, but he's a hard-nosed guy. It's just a different version of Ben Johnson, but the team respects him because of the fact that he can roll out there. I don't know if you know this, cuz he was the fastest dude at his combine class. And he doesn't talk like that. He doesn't act like that. But he was a former receiver that had speed. And he shows the team old footage, and he's got this old John Gruden style. And I think we underestimated that change could have actually made things better. Because I know you and me are kind of the same. We don't like change. We do the things we like to do over and over and over again, and then we get freaked out when some change happens. But I will say this. My takeaway is I like this Lions football team with the premise that if you add correctly Brad Holmes, there's a chance in an NFC that's not maybe as good as we once thought there could be a legitimate run made by this Detroit Lions team. You can't poo-poo 40 points a game, and Jared Goff, probably this will be the year he has his best run to do some big things. What was your reaction to the Cincy game and your thoughts now on are the Lions, maybe we could say at least in the NFC, are the Lions the number one team in the league right now?
I was frustrated by the Cincinnati game.
Really?
Like,
what?
Yeah.
You're so negative.
Yeah, I mean, maybe. But I watching the game, I was frustrated, especially in that first half. I was like, what are they doing? Like,
yeah.
I felt like they should have took advantage more of that Cincinnati defense.
Right.
And they just didn't. I felt like they left so many points on the field. And then you fast forward to the fourth quarter, and defensively, they just took their foot off the gas. And
Yes,
they
did.
just basically played prevent, and they just stopped playing is what it felt like for probably about 8 minutes of that fourth quarter. And you've seen what happened. The Bengals were able to put 3 quick touchdowns up, and then when Detroit decided that it wanted to start playing again, they ended up getting a safety and sacking Brownie in the end zone. So to me, it felt like there was so much more that this team could do. And that's the other thing about this. Yes, they look really good through their last 4 games. I don't necessarily know if they've played anybody, though.
Right.
The Ravens confound me because this was supposed to be a team that was very, very scary. And I don't think the Ravens are a very good team. The Ravens look to be pretty beat up, and they look to be a little bit lost right now. So I don't know if we can give them as much credit for that Ravens win as we want to give them. I think they did a fantastic job taking care of what was in front of them, and that's all you can really ask them to do. They did a great job with that, just like they did with Cincinnati. They did a good job with taking care of Cincinnati. They did a good job with taking care of the Browns. But I haven't seen a complete game from any phase of this team. Haven't seen a complete phase from the offense, hadn't seen a complete phase from the defense, hadn't seen a complete phase from special teams, much less them put it all together, merge, and form Devastator. So I'm a little bit frustrated with this team because I feel like this team, if they can put it all together, they are going to be very, very good, which then leads us to this week against Kansas City. Yes, they're going on the road. Yes, they're going to take on a Kansas City team that used to strike fear in everybody in the NFL. No longer really the case. I don't think this is the team that it was 2 years ago. I don't think it's the team that it was 3 years ago, 4 years ago, 5 years ago. This is a completely different team. You've got Travis Kelce, who's a shell of himself. Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid. Something just doesn't seem right in that offense. I'm not sure what it is. The usage of Isaiah Pacheco is questioning to me. They don't feel like they lean on him enough. Xavier Worthy, I'm still not sure what his role is on that team. And then defensively, it just kind of seems like a couple of guys just got fat and sassy, got a couple of contracts, and are just kind of in cruise control. And maybe they're just waiting for the playoffs to flip the switch, and maybe they become that team that everybody used to fear. But right now, this Kansas City team doesn't scare me. So if I'm looking for, I guess the word is a litmus test for the Detroit Lions, I'm not sure if it comes this week. I think it probably comes the following week when they take on the Bengals, or when they take on the Buccaneers.
Yes.
Because Baker Mayfield right now and the Tampa Bay Bucks look incredibly dangerous.
They do.
I think at the very, very top of the NFC, you've got 3 teams. And I think the Detroit Lions are one of those 3 teams. And I think the Detroit Lions have potential enough to be the number 1 team, but you still have a Super Bowl champ that's out there. And yeah, they had a bad week this past Sunday when they took on Denver. But the Philadelphia Eagles are still a really, really good team, and they can cut you up multiple ways. Maybe everything's not great in that locker room with Brown, but whatever the situation is, whatever the case may be, those guys still have a quarterback who can run and throw the ball, and they've got arguably one of the best backs in all of the league, and they've got a defensive front, which is nasty and will wreak havoc, and we'll see. Because the Lions are supposed to play the Eagles later on this year. We'll see. And then you've got the Tampa Bay Bucks, who I think play a very entertaining style of football. I've loved Baker Mayfield since he's come out of college. I loved him when he was in college. I was excited when he played for the Browns. I was upset that the Browns cut him and let him go, and I was upset with everything that took place with the Browns. I've always been a Baker fan. I've always rooted for Baker. And I think watching Baker play, he's got this moxie. He's just one of those guys when things aren't going right, just get on my back and I'll carry us. And he's got the ability to do that. This guy is playing without an offensive tackle. This guy is playing without supposedly two of his best wide receivers. He's got a rookie wide receiver who is looking like an all-pro right now. Defensively, they're banged up, and these guys are still finding ways to win. Are they doing it in the same fashion that the Lions are doing it, where they're hanging crooked numbers on teams? No. But I think the way that they're doing it and what they have to overcome is probably a little bit more impressive than what the Lions are doing. And then you've got the Detroit Lions, obviously. I think at this point, they probably lead the league in points scored. I'd have to go and look. But offensively, they're a freaking juggernaut, Defensively, it really feels like they can go blow for blow with anybody as long as they stay engaged in the game. And I think that was probably the biggest frustration watching the Cincinnati game.
Yeah.
Playing against the Bengals, you get into the fourth quarter, and all of a sudden, you put it on cruise control. And Kelvin Shepherd is supposed to be a guy who's all gas, no break. And it really felt like he just took a break. He's like, all right, guys, we're going to go play prevent. That's not you. What are you doing? Don't do that. To me, it sends a bad message to the team. And then when things started to unravel a little bit, you're like, okay, cool. We'll put our big boy pants back on and we'll go play. And we'll knock you out right here. All right, cool. Why didn't you do that? I don't know, 2 series ago. Why did you even let them sniff getting back into the game? When you play better teams, that's going to hurt you. And then you start looking at the defensive side of the ball, and it's really starting to feel a little bit like deja vu. You've lost basically both your starting corners. You've got to go and you got to bring guys in. You've got to sign guys, put guys on your practice squad, elevate guys off your practice squad. It's kind of a mess in your secondary right now. And Aleem McNeil sounds like he's coming back maybe this week, maybe next week, maybe the week after. Maybe he comes back after the bye week. I'm not sure, but you're going to get a little bit of help up front. But, man, your secondary, and you're going to be taking on a quarterback who is deadly. There lies the challenge, right, this week. You've got a banged-up secondary. You're going up against Patrick Mahomes, and again, things don't look right with that offense right now, but there's still guys who can make plays. And you've got to figure out how to get into Patrick Mahomes' way, figure out a way to slow him down, figure out a way to get him frustrated. I feel like once you get him frustrated, he unravels a little bit, and you're able to take advantage. To me, this team is good. This team is very, very good. But I've not seen them put it all together the way it should be put together in a complete game. And that is leaving me concerned, and that is leaving me frustrated with this team. Do I think they're one of the best teams in all of the NFL? I absolutely do. Do I think this is a team that could be playing for a Super Bowl when everything is said and done? I do, as long as they can get healthy and stay healthy. I think Brad Holmes has a monumental task in front of him. He's going to have to make some moves come trade deadline time, because you're not going to be able to survive with your cornerbacks basically falling out of the tree like apples during apple picking season. You're not going to be able to survive that long. So things have to get done.
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
Yes, John, I think this is a very good team, but there's still more work to be done.
And you have valid concerns, is that Taylor Decker, Tyrion Arnold are dealing with some significant injuries. I did not like seeing Jared Goff getting rocked on a couple blitzes and a couple pass rushes. Giovanni Manu acknowledged that he had two bad reps there. That's not the standard, is to get your quarterback hit. I hope that Taylor Decker, they figure out a way to handle his shoulder. This year it's the shoulder situation. Taylor Decker's shoulder and Tyrion Arnold's shoulder. I guess there's good news with Tyrion, depending on what side of the fence that you're on. Look, he's a work in progress. Everybody knows that he's got work to do. He's too handsy. And at the very least, he hasn't done a good enough job of selling that he can play physical without getting called. Now, you got to remember, we all previewed it, that the officiating crew that the Lions had against the Bengals, they just threw an average 16 to 18 flags a game, which is way, way over the average that they're supposed to have. And they got close. They were like at 13, 14 flags in this contest. But look, Terry Arnold's got to play better. Whatever it is, if he misses a month, he's going to be gone for at least a month. I'm a little bit concerned about the cornerbacks. Meek Robertson, I think, is good. He'll handle it, but you can't make mistakes where you get burned for a 60-yard touchdown. That's being, like he said, being greedy, bad eyes. That's just the worst thing you could do is to give up an over-the-top play. He's got reamed out for that. And then you're counting on guys like Rocky Sin, Trey Flowers, Avante Maddox. That will be okay, but Baker Mayfield and Patrick Mahomes got to be salivating that. And I'm calling it. I think this game, Sunday Night Football, has a chance to be like 45-40 and get up there and shatter. It could be on the level of what the Rams and the Chiefs did, where there's just a scoring fest and nobody gets any stops. So, look, whoever gets the ball last, I think, has a chance in this game. It is a different. You got to pay attention to Thornton. You got to pay attention to Kelsey. Mahomes is a wizard. But I do think the Lions have, more players in their prime. And you just see the offense, because it's just Gibbs is now thriving. Montgomery is a great backup role player that comes in and when needed can do some things. Laporta, J-Mo can fire it up. They just got too much. And I agree with you. But the good thing is it's still the first month, 5-6 games of the season. By the time this thing turns around and you get to Dallas, Pittsburgh, and the second half of the division games, look out. The defense will round into shape. You'll have some guys back. Ali McNeil comes back. So this is now the time to say, okay, how does this team compare? And your points are very valid. How would this look if they played that way in the playoffs? That's what gets you beat against the Commanders. You can't play that way. That's why Dan Campbell keeps standing up in front of the team and going, man, you guys are so good. You can beat the crumb bums in the regular season. But if you don't clean it up, that's how you lose to a Bucs team in the playoffs. I don't want to see the Bucs. I'm scared of the Bucs. They have some of that wizardry, and they played a close game against the Lions in the playoffs, and heaven forbid, you have to go down there. So you don't want to see anything with the Bucs, man. They're crazy, and I think it's a three-headed race in the NFC. It's the Bucs, the Eagles, and the Lions, and the Lions are right there. I don't know what the hell's going on in Philly, but it seems like A.J. Brown and A.J. Brown ruined the team. He's like, I want the ball more. So the offense is like, okay, Nick Sirianni's like, okay, I'm going to pass it more. You give Saquon less than 10 touches? Are you effing kidding me? And they lost the game. Are you kidding me? Tell A.J. Brown, listen, man, shut up or trade his ass. This team runs through Saquon, and shut your pie hole up. We'll find somebody else to get the football from Jalen Hurts. We don't care if you're crying on the sideline. We don't care if you got the doo-doo face every single game when you're winning. Like, shame on you, man. You listen, selfish players are the worst thing for an organization, and good for them. They got to deal with that. And luckily for us, it's totally different. J-Mo's only getting a touch, and he's out there running through blocks and handling his business because he got paid, and he understands that if you go in that film room and you're not blocking, and you got Amon-Ra, Scotty Montgomery, and your teammates looking at you, you're gonna block when you got Amon-Ra St. Brown running through the gap there and taking on linebackers and tight ends and all that kind of stuff. So J-Mo can handle a couple games where he doesn't play. And you don't even have J-Mo firing on all cylinders yet. Imagine if that connects. I think there's a chance for some specialness in this year, and I think it's fun ride and enjoy it. But Adam brings up a very, very good point. It's not clean, and clean football has to happen for this football team to win and continue to win. I got the Lions winning. It's going to be a fun Sunday. I'm liking it. And then next Sunday will be fun, a rare Sunday where I can just sit back and probably do nothing but watch football from 1 p.m. until 11 p.m. because the Lions will play on Monday night, and then it's a bye week. So it's a fun next couple weeks. Make sure you follow Adam on X at AdamRSTROZ. Follow the network at Detroit Podcast. We might switch over to the DSP AI channel because I've just been truly, the last couple 24 hours, I don't know if there's been some new update that's come out, but the hilarity of some of these videos that are coming out, I don't know, you guys are sick in what you're doing with Stephen Hawking's and what you're doing with some of these characters. I've seen a lot of hilarious AI videos. I love the ones with the kids that are swearing. Those ones get me rolling all the time. It's a fun time, man. It's a weird world we're living in. But it's and then one last thing. If you're Mark Sanchez, I just think you need to, accept your punishment, get yourself to rehab, figure out whatever the hell you were doing because, you're getting paid to broadcast. You're not getting paid to ravage the streets of Indianapolis and hurt an old man. I've watched all the videos and seen all the photos because I'm online way too much. But it just goes to show you, yet again, another PSA. before you need to weigh in and say, oh my God, the streets of Indy are terrible. Just wait until some police reports come out, because there were a lot of people with egg on their face going, prayers to Mark Sanchez. Oh, I can't believe he was out there on the mean streets of Indy. And then you realize Mark Sanchez is going to be arrested for felony accounts of aggravated assault, and he don't remember what the hell he did. And allegedly, he took a nice swipe at a dude's face and pretty much almost killed him. So let's just be careful in our rush to judgment, in our rush to be sanctimonious, and let's kind of wait for the facts to come out, because y'all look pretty stupid trying to be like, oh God bless Mark Sanchez. Yeah, guys, Mark's in the clinger at the moment, and he's got some issues. All your debates, make sure you come in. Thank you guys for letting us be a small part of the Detroit sports community at Detroit Podcast. You will laugh, you will be upset, you'll get triggered, but we'll have fun conversations. And as always, go Tigers. Maybe, just maybe, it'll be the Tigers and the Blue Jays for the right to go to the World Series. Let's see what happens, and make sure that you stick with us. I can't wait. I literally can't wait for next week to fire up another episode of Doc and Jock on the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.